I entered the military, the service in December of 1944, and we were sent to, a bunch of us from Minnesota were sent to Camp Walters, Texas, and we were together in Camp Walters, Texas for several weeks uh, as in our basic training. I was trained for machine gunner and rifleman training. And then we went from there uh, up to delay en route, and then we stopped in Fergus Falls at my home, and then had to go back to Fort Meade, Maryland, and we were stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland, and we were ready to go overseas to fight the Germans, and Hitler heard there was a bunch of us United States troops from Minnesota coming over there, and young guys from Minnesota, and he committed suicide. That's the way I tell it, in a way. But then we went. We were several of us got to march in the Victory Day parade in New York City in May of 1945, and that was one of my highlights of my whole career in being in the service. It was really interesting to march up Fifth Avenue in New York City in the Victory VE Day parade. And then we were stationed there for a couple more weeks before they decided to send us by troop train 5 days and 5 nights from Fort Meade, Maryland to Vancouver, Washington, where we shipped out a day later to Okinawa. And we arrived in Okinawa in July of 1945, and we were already, the Battle of Okinawa was just over with, and so we were already put into training, and we didn't know what it was for, but it's another battle coming up, and we found out later it was the invasion of Japan, what we were training for. So I wouldn't be here today if Paul Tibbets hadn't dropped that atomic bomb on Hiroshima in August 6th of 1945. A second bomb was dropped on Nagasaki on August 9th, 1945. And a few days later, then the Japanese finally surrendered. And so we were then sent to Korea as occupation troops. We were up in Kaesong. The infantry was sent by Kaesong on the 38th parallel, guarding the 38th parallel in South Korea. And North Korea was divided line there. And then a few days later, about a week later, then I got called into the office, and they transferred me to the quartermaster corps as a clerk typist, because I had typing in high school and I could still type. And there were 6 of us that were sent there, and they took 2 of us. And I was one of the 2 that they took. And I said, do I have to go? No, you don't have to go. But it was a good opportunity for me to go to the 7th Division Quartermaster Corps, where I became the company clerk. So I got a T5 rating, corporal rating right away. And some of the guys had been through all the battles, were a lot older than me. I was still 19 years old. And they were still privates, private first class. And here I was just a little 19-year-old kid coming in, and some of them had been through all the battles, and they're still a private first class. And I was promoted to sergeant, or T4 rating, a little while later as administrative NCO in the company. So I did all the company clerk business and the mail clerk business too. So they gave me a Jeep to travel on around in. So we were there for the rest of our time in Seoul, Korea, the capital. And it was a backward country, very much backward. Now I've seen pictures of Seoul, Korea now, and it's just beautiful how much this has changed since 1945. So then I got discharged. Kenny Osnes and I and a bunch of other Minnesota guys came back on the same ship. And Kenny Osnes came back with me from California, Camp Beale, California, where we were discharged. We got on a Greyhound bus and came home. And then I've been writing to a girl from Oslo, Minnesota, that I had that her brother was in the service with me, Irving Nelson, and he was in the service with me, and then we were showing each other girlfriend's pictures on the ship going to Okinawa. And I started writing to her. She was 16 years old, and I wrote to her the 18 months that I was overseas, and when I came home from the service, was discharged. 2 weeks later, I went up there to visit her, to meet her for the first time, and then 2 weeks later, she came down to visit me and my family. I took her back to Oslo, Minnesota, and I asked her to marry me after 2 weeks. Now we've been married for 70 years. In July of 2017. We've been married for 70 years, so right now. So that's about it.